Hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome to something different, maybe a new segment. We'll see how we go. Probably call it like the hype train. It's been something that's rolling around in my head now that I'm narrowing my scope a little bit more on the channel because I'm frankly overwhelmed by paralysis with too many games on my plate. There's a little bit room for me to kind of look forward to what's coming up and, dare I say, get on board the hype train. Anyway, look, this might be a terrible idea, who knows. If you like the idea of this, let me know. But in an industry that creates a lot of consumer apprehension, I find myself, and I know there's plenty of others, kind of not getting as excited about upcoming games, and I would like to foster that. So, looking at Metal Eden today, but we'll probably do this for, the wish list of the next 100 games that I'd like to cover on the coming year or so. So, Metal Eden, this is coming up around the corner. I'm probably going to cover it. It looks great. I think it looks really cool. It's kind of got this boomer shooter, fast movement style to it. You'll notice watching the footage, I don't think there's any ADS or anything like that, which I kind of find as a tragically breath of fresh air. The guys making this are called Recon Games, or Rycon, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but they did Ruiner a few years ago. Geez, a few years ago, 2017 apparently. I still remember it fondly. Funnily enough, not necessarily for the gameplay loop, nothing really wrong with it. From what I gather, it's sort of like top-down, twin-stick shooter, arena style sort of things, but the style and the theme, and I even remember you've got a voice in your head talking to you. It's like a buddy ex-girlfriend or something like that. She keeps calling you papi. And these things I actually really remember, and is a big part of why I'm so pumped for Metal Eden. So the theme of Ruiner, that gritty cyberpunk, and it was a bit more fresh and edge of the sword back in 2017, right when indie games were exploding and trying to figure out where they kind of sit, and with the genres that were burgeoning like roguelites and that sort of stuff. This wasn't quite that, but it was something trying to figure that out. But anyway, that's a good sign that the thing in the old memory banks out of all the billions of games that I've played was, the thematic overtures and tone of Ruiner. And the reason I'm sort of meditating on that is because Metal Eden looks to be almost the same. It's different, it's evolved, it's a different perspective, that sort of thing, but it still has that cyberpunk, what I like to call clean futurism. People are probably going to draw comparisons between this and something like Marathon, for example, or even like Void Breaker that came out recently in early access. It has that cyberpunk robo aesthetic, but your hard lines are a bit softer, it's a less scuffed and more clean. Not necessarily trying to blow the color palette out with hyper vibrant colors or anything like that, but still it sits in this genre within genre. You can see it, you can taste it. So that's kind of what I'm most pumped about. I looked up the composer. I think, as best as I can tell, I'm still working this out, this pre-release coverage when I don't have my hot little hands on the game, but I think Sonic Mayhem might be his name, and I'm actually a real big audiophile, which doesn't really gel super well with making YouTube videos because you get copyright struck on bloody everything. But to give you a dot point summary, he's channeling, again, that grunge, dirty, industrial cyberpunk vibe, probably best recognized in Cyberpunk 2077 by someone like Health, which is high praise because they're one of my favorite bands and they do quite a bit of stuff for video games these days. They even did a bit back in Max Payne 3. Anyway, setting a high bar for this poor bloke, but it's all shaping up very well. Also, look, I'm not a huge Nintendo person, but I don't live in such a shell that I don't realize. You can even see in this footage, there's some heavy inspiration from, what's her bloody name? Samus? The Robo Ball Metroidvania? Well, funnily enough, I wonder where that term came from. The old OG Metroids. So there seems to be segments where you turn into a ball and cruise around doing strafe tank combat, and that's fine. That works for me. All of this looks really tight and clean. I believe there was a demo. It might still be up. I'm kind of just putting this together for today, and maybe we'll do another one tomorrow, and potentially I'll actually start playing demos as well. Again, you'll have to bear with me. This is a bit of a prototype setup, but I guess the core is, I think people are apprehensive to get excited, to get hyped about games. They don't want to expose themselves and get slapped on the wrist and that sort of stuff. But once this idea snuck its way into the back of my mind, I'm kind of embracing it. I like the idea of getting on board the hype train. And this also opens up other opportunities. I can be a little bit more speculative and predictive. If you're not across it, I'm reviewing games like on a ranking scale, essentially, and we're flip-flopping whether it's going to be a percentage score or what have you. But like, you know, to get an idea of how high something like this might rank, I don't see it being, you know, the game of the year or anything like that, but it looks solid from every angle. It looks like it's ticking all the boxes, something like the SHINOBI game that we just covered previously. Like, not breaking the mold, but definitely setting the standard and fairly high. So that's what I'm kind of expecting from this going into it. It is published by Deep Silver, who honestly, they're becoming a little bit scattershot with their publishing rights. Like, they have some absolute bangers under their belts. You know, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 this year, Dead Island 2, which, you know, I actually really liked, but I can understand a lot of people might have some misgivings about it. Even Metro Exodus, if you go all the way back. But they also presided over things like Saints Row, and, you know, I don't necessarily want to talk out of school or anything like that, but like Echoes of the End is something that came out to a whisper recently. I do have it. I played for 15 minutes and I didn't like it. There you go, that's my video on that. So yeah, from a publishing perspective, it doesn't really tell us much. Being that Deep Silver seems to not really have any standards either way, and they do actually seem to be a 50-50 crapshoot whether they pick up good things or rough things. But you know what? I'm going to put it all on black. I reckon this is good. This looks good to me. I'm surprised it's not like a roguelike or anything like that. You'd expect that in current times, but it seems to be just a straight up the guts indie to, well, double A, I suppose, with Deep Silver money, you know, Doom-esque, but even then it doesn't seem to have any gimmicks like executions or anything like that. Anyway, I don't need to waffle. That's my video, that's my hype. I'm excited for it. Maybe you should get excited for it. If you think this video idea is a good one, let me know. You know, I could go down that rabbit hole and just become a negative reporting channel that tears down everything in gaming. I'd rather celebrate the things on my wish list in between my reviews and share that excitement. You know, maybe it's infectious. Maybe we can put a little bit of good back into gaming. Anyway, Metal Eden, wish list it, keep an eye out for it. Good chance. It's in my schedule, so I'll probably cover it and review it when it comes out. Anyway, team, might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.